Hello, Centralia. I'm Shane Lothar.
And I'm Rachel Roddy.
And this is Centralia on Air. Thank you so much for joining us. Last week on the show, we had Gayla Harding and Don Ford in studio to talk about Centralia Connection and how they are helping mentor kids in need. Hey, speaking of connections, you remember the classic kids game, Connect 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Depending on what country you're in, though, it's also known as Captain's Mistress. 4 up, 4 in a row, 4 in a line. And if you're in the Soviet Union, Gravotrips.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it says right here that with perfect play, the person who goes first always wins.
Yeah, player 1 can force a win by like the 41st move every time if you play your cards right.
You mean play your chips right.
Yeah, whatever. I don't like this at all. We're not going to support this. I'm not going to broadcast on the air that if player 1 simply makes their first move in a column adjacent to the center. Oh, shoot.
Oops.
Anyways, that was last week. But this is this week.
That's right. On today's show, we have 2 special guests in studio. A little later, we are going to talk with local author and evangelist Melany Jackson. But first up, we have Melissa Lowery here to tell us about the Marion Eye Center's big back-to-school supply drive. All right, Melissa, thank you so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Melissa Lowery. I work with Marion Eye Center. I've been with them since 2011. I'm from Wayne City, Illinois, and I went to high school there, graduated in 1986. I am married. I have 2 sons with 2 daughter-in-laws. I have soon-to-be 5 grandbabies.
Hello.
So, yeah.
That's
exciting.
exciting.
And they're all underneath the age of 4.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a couple of years I took off and watched my grandbabies and stuff and did a crafting class in Wayne City. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up going back to work with Marion Eye Center last year. So, yeah.
So, Melissa, what exactly do you do at Marion Eye Center?
Well, I mainly have been doing the marketing and stuff. Started doing some of the social media and everything. I also work on the LASIK team with Dr. Umana. This is his 20th year of doing LASIK and everything, so I kind of just do that. I just work a little bit with that. And the school supply drive with Iris, that was just something that I just came up with, so, yeah.
So what office do you mainly work out of?
I mainly work out of the Marion office.
But you have locations in, Salem?
Centralia, Vandalia, Effingham.
I think it said 35
we
locations.
have 35 locations.
In Southern Illinois.
So we go as far over as Poplar Bluff, Missouri. We go to Anna and far north as Effingham, Vandalia. So we have offices up there all the way over to Carmi.
You got it covered.
Yeah.
So now do you market for all of those?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
that's a big
35.
job.
Yeah, but I enjoy it, though. I enjoy doing that.
That'd be fun. So we're here today to talk about the back to school supplies. Mm-hmm. The Marion Eye Center is having a school supply drive. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we started this school supply drive back in June. We're doing it for June, July, and August in all 35 locations. My little mascot is Iris. It's a little girl that I found on Adobe, and I just thought she was really cute and everything. So she's my little spokesperson. What we will do, I have a generic list of supplies that people can get off of Facebook, or you can go into any of the Marion Eye Center locations, get that list. I did a generic list because there's so much supplies needed for each grade. It's kind of hard to do each grade. So all those supplies that we collect in these months, we will then donate to the grade schools in that town at the end of August.
It looks like Iris is looking for colored pencils, washable markers, Number 2, pencils, erasers, scissors, glue, tissues, pens, crayons, the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. And we're going to donate them, like I said, to each school. So Marion's got 3 or 4 grade schools, so they will go all to them. And Centralia, right here, they'll go to the Centralia grade schools and everything. So it's just a way to, because I know with each year, the parents, I mean, especially if you have more than one child, I mean, you got all these different lists and stuff, and then the teachers usually supply a lot of stuff on their own. It's just a way of helping them a little bit throughout the school year, and hopefully give them a jump to the school year and help them out a little bit on that part of it. So
you kicked this off in June. So far, how's it going?
it's going pretty good. It's we're getting the word out there and everything. So each office has a little box, and each office has designed it different ways. We got some offices that have their box that looks like a school bus, some that looks like a school, building blocks, different things like that. So you can just go in and then put them in those boxes. But yeah, it's doing pretty good. We're excited about it.
So if someone's interested and wants to see the list of supplies, where can they find that?
You can find them in any of our 35 locations. You can also get them off of Facebook. I have a PDF form of it on there, and you can print it off. So just go to Marion Eye Center and Optical is what we are on Facebook.
Did you say this is the first year for this?
This is the first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for our local Centralianites.
Yeah.
Centralians? I don't know. I feel like I talked about this like the first episode.
You did.
We have a Marion Eye Center here in Centralia at 899 East McCord.
Yes.
So if you are interested in helping some kids and teachers out for this coming school year, that's where you need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. With it being the first year, it's really trying to get it up and going and getting the word out. Last year we did the food can supply and everything, and that went over good and stuff too. But like I said, it's just that first year. I think it's just letting people know.
Yeah. Because
my goal is to make it more Marion Eye Center rural community friendly. I want to be out in the community. I want the community to see something from us besides just, an eye care provider that we care about our patients.
Yeah.
So.
That's a common theme on this show. When local businesses and the residents can come together and support each other. I mean, that's how you keep these small towns alive.
That's for sure. Yeah, definitely.
And as the husband of a teacher, this stuff's important.
Okay.
Yes.
I can tell you, they do sink their own money into it, and not everything is provided by the school. So if you want to help out your local kids and your local teachers, this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, even if somebody just wanted to pick up a pack of colored pencils and drop them off, I mean, that helps more than you think it does.
Yeah, you don't have to buy the whole list.
No. Yeah, you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money.
No, you can, just anything on that list will help, so it doesn't, you don't have to do the whole list. It's just some ideas and stuff that you can do.
All right, one more time, what's the website or Facebook they can find you guys?
On Facebook, we are Marion Eye Center and Optical, and just look on our page, and we have that stuff in there. And you can also send me a message and stuff through Facebook on Messenger, and I can get it that way too if you have any questions or anything. So
Okay, so people in Centralia, 899 East McCord Street.
That's right.
Drop off some school supplies.
We appreciate it very much.
Yes.
Really do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and we hope to have you back again sometime.
Okay. Thank you guys for having me.
You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. We'll be right back.
Our second guest today has spent most of her adult life ministering and helping out those in need. She just released a book detailing her journey in faith. Melany Jackson, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, it's so cool to be back here sitting in the studios. I grew up here in Centralia the first 19 years of my life. Melanie Shaw went to West Side School and went to Willow Grove. And it's just really good to be able to be back here and to kind of share what God's been doing in my life through the last few years.
So you are from Centralia, now located in Colorado, right? Mm-hmm. Everything that's happened between here and there, that's what this book is all about, isn't it? So we are here today to talk about a book you wrote, More Than Enough, which is kind of an adventure in faith as you set out to launch a new ministry for homeless people. What can people expect as they pick this book up and start reading?
The whole idea, even the title itself, the idea behind the title is that God truly is more than enough for us, regardless of what set of difficult circumstances we're in the middle of. If it's a health crisis, a financial crisis, relationships, family difficulties, employment difficulties, God is our provider. The Bible says He's Jireh. He is Jehovah Jireh. And I saw God provide for me in truly miraculous ways as He led me in the direction of helping our friends without an address. And that's kind of what the book chronicles, how He provided not only for me, but for this ministry called See You at Home.
Yeah, a lot of this whole thing gets started back in 2010, right, on a college campus?
It was December of 2010, and I was living in Champaign-Urbana. We went in a truck that had resources, outreach resources for folks who didn't have a place to live. On the truck, they had sack lunches, socks and underwear and blankets and coats. On this particular night, it was a Monday night, and there was already snow on the ground in Champaign, and it was blowing quite hard and snowing. So it wasn't a blizzard. I wouldn't say it was that extreme, but it was extremely miserable, very cold. And we stopped on the campus of the University of Illinois. We stopped at an IHOP parking lot, and 3 guys came up to the truck to see what we had for them. And some of the other volunteers in the truck already knew these fellas because they'd been doing this for a while, but I was brand new to this. And one of those 3 men, I saw that he didn't have gloves on, and I noticed that his fingertips were starting to get dark, and I just had a real disconnect. Here I am on one of the most affluent campuses, at least in the Midwest, engineering campus for the country, the University of Illinois, and here's a man who's starting to get frostbite. It just does not make sense. Why is this happening here? And we continued getting them some coats and blankets, and they said they were going to be sleeping in an underground parking garage that night, so they would be out of the snow, but certainly cold concrete still. And one of the volunteers in the truck said, well, could we pray for you? So all of us in the truck got out, and we made a big circle and held hands. And the volunteer prayed that they would be safe and that they would be warm that night. Really just a simple prayer. And when that volunteer finished praying, one of the men started praying for us. And he thanked God for bringing people who cared about them, and prayed that we would be safe, and prayed that we would be warm that night.
Talk about humbling.
Mm-hmm. It completely caught me off guard. I had no idea that that one of the folks from the street was going to be talking to Jesus on my behalf that night.
Okay, so after this See You at Home, what is it and how did it get started?
That first experience through the canteen run really got into my heart, and I wanted to find out about Champaign-Urbana. What resources do they have? What are the shelters that are available? Why are these folks not in the shelter? So I started really an education process of what would it look like to help these 3 men that are not in the shelter. What do they need to help them maybe, start to turn their life around? And during the spring, I started to realize that this was going to take time and money to get a new effort started. And I didn't really have much of either one of those. I had about 5 different part-time jobs that spring, and a couple of them were associated with the school year, so they would be ending in May. And the other jobs I stepped away from by Memorial Day. I had a pretty nice SUV and a nice motorcycle, and I sold them for seed money for the ministry. And it was kind of interesting the way the timing worked out. I was renting a room from a friend in my church, and she said her family was going to be moving back that summer from California, and that I would have a place to stay if I wanted to stay in the home with them. But I knew she was going to need her home to minister to her own family. They were having a lot of challenges. And I thought, what does this look like? Okay, I'm wanting to start a ministry for folks with no place to live, and now I have no place to live. God, you got a great sense of humor.
Oh, the irony.
So I ended up moving into a transitional shelter there in Champaign, an old hotel that's used to help folks stay for about a year and take classes and just get away from substance abuse and learn to maybe stand more on their feet. So I lived there the first year and a half of the ministry of See You at Home, and it just kind of started really, really slow and steady along the way. I moved into Restoration Urban Ministries in the summer, and that fall we had a survey to identify the most vulnerable folks on the street, those most at risk of dying early. And once we had one man identified at the top of that list, it was a search for housing. Where are we going to help this person live? And also for people to help him, so like an advocate and maybe a small team of folks to help him. And I got contacted by a woman who had seen a notice in a church bulletin that we were looking for housing. And she said, I'd like to meet with you. We might be able to help you with something. And we had dinner, and I explained what we were hoping to do to get at least this one person off the street for the winter, because it was December, the beginning of December. And she said, we have a little house across the street from ours, and we've had a missionary stay in it, and her mom had lived in it a while, but it was vacant, and they had just put new plumbing in it that summer, and they didn't have money to pay utilities. So one thing they were concerned about was those pipes busting. And I knew in my calculations that I was going to have about $1,000 left, that me and See You at Home, the whole ministry, all of that funding was going to be about $1,000 left, and that wouldn't really pay for rent and utilities through the winter. Right. But it would pay for utilities. So they allowed us to use the house, and another thing that was just powerful about this meeting is these two people that own the house, neither one of them had full-time employment. They didn't have health insurance. They got most of their food from the food pantry. So very humble folks with meager means who were willing to give us the opportunity to help someone get off the street. And we moved that man, Vernon, into the house on December 22nd, just before Christmas.
You had quite a bit of help getting See You at Home off the ground. A lot of people were, partnered with you and stepped up. Is there anybody you'd like to thank? Or?
Well, that's a great comment. And in the very, very beginning, it felt pretty lonely. I went on a church tour in Champaign of about 62, 63 churches, asking them to partner with us to help get one of these folks off the street. And all but one of them, the meetings went something like this. Wow, Melany, it's really great that you have this on your heart and that you're wanting to help these folks, and arm around me and we'll pray for you. Yeah, no money, no volunteers, no housing. So that was pretty discouraging. That was for about 5 months that first year. And God used this couple with this first house to allow us to begin helping folks. I did have a friend who was just going to be retiring, John Smith, who helped me the first about a year and a half, and he was kind of my right-hand man through the beginning of the ministry. And I got some folks from my church and a couple other friends kind of who knew about mental health and about shelter to be on a team, a leadership team, an advisory team that first summer. And we met pretty regularly just to share ideas and to pray together, say, what might God be doing? What does he want us to do next? So it was awesome to have that team. We just called them the advisory team, the A team.
Hey, the A-team.
Yeah.
So you were up in Champaign recently?
Mm-hmm.
And how is CU at Home doing?
Yeah, it's beautiful to see, because I feel like it's kind of a legacy for me that the ministry is still totally thriving. When I left in September of last year, there were 5 full-time staff, and those 5 full-time staff are still there and just doing a great job. The seven members of the board of directors are all still in place and even more engaged. And we just got word 2 weeks ago that we're going to get to move into a new property, a new building that used to be one of the shelters in town.
Oh, cool.
So it's like already set up with showers, and it's just a lot more square footage. And we've been involved, CU at Home has been involved the last 2 years in some emergency shelter for the winter, just temporary. And now we're going to have space to have the daytime center, to have nighttime emergency shelter, the offices, parking, like all of it on the same property. That's super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If someone wants to give to or help support CU at Home, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can find all that information at the website. It's the letter C, the letter U, the word at, and the word home. So cuathome.us, like United States. cuathome.us. You can find out all about Rob and the team that's leading the ministry and ways for you to get involved by spending your time to donate supplies, financial donations, vehicle donations, if you have property that you'd like them to use.
Okay, so you were in Champaign for this book tour. So let's talk a little bit about the book. What can somebody get from this book?
The book is really meant to be an encouragement for anyone who needs a boost in their faith. That God is maybe calling you to do something a little different, a little bit out of the box that doesn't quite make sense. This book is going to give you a lot of examples of God being faithful through that kind of call. If he calls you to do something that doesn't quite make sense, he's going to give you the ability, the knowledge. He's going to give you the resources. He's going to give you people to help you. So I want this to be an encouragement for folks to kind of step out of the boat, as it were. And I think the book is also an encouragement for folks who maybe you have someone in your family with a type of mental illness, or you know someone who has struggled with substance abuse, or maybe even somebody who's slept in their car at one point in their life. All of those issues are really addressed throughout the book, and I share about how God has brought redemption, restoration, stories of hope. And I also feel like I was fairly transparent with some of my weaknesses and my challenges. I've from the time I remember being at Willow Grove, different people at different times would say, well, you're just too bossy, and being demanding, controlling. And that you could kind of call it like my signature sin. It's the thing that's just come back time and time again in volunteer situations, in employment situations. And there were some pretty difficult periods that I went through, had different key people walk away from the ministry because I rubbed them the wrong way. And I really want to relate to the reader, because all of us mess things up and feel like we're not good enough. And God is faithful to come alongside us, to bring hope where there was no hope, to restore relationships after they've been badly broken. There's a lot about that in the book as well.
Rachel and I are only a couple chapters in, but encountering so many of those challenges, does any of them stick out to you? Or one time you just thought, you know what, this is it, I'm done, I give up?
Yeah, absolutely. It was 2016, and we were having to move locations. Our lease was up for our daytime center and our offices. It was going to be tore down to be developed. Our lease was going to be up December 31st. And I looked at one property after another, and things just weren't right, or it wasn't available, or it cost too much. And we finally got access to a building kind of on Green Street, on that same campus street where that canteen run was a few years ago. So we were going to get to move into a building, but we didn't get access to it until the third week of November. And it was a shell, and it had to have old plumbing dug out of it before we could do any of the build out of the walls and the things that we needed in there. So 6 weeks through the holidays. Volunteer labor, no money to pay contractors to do this. And just one thing after another was a setback. Working with getting the building permit from the city was a challenge, and then we had things not go right with that. There were also some real challenges going on with the ministry. We had 2 part-time employees that we'd hired just about the same time, and all of a sudden money came up missing. And then a few days later, money came up missing again. And we had never had money taken from this ministry. So that was happening, and we do a huge event in February where folks sleep out in cardboard boxes along the street on the sidewalk in downtown Champaign. It's called See You at Home One Winter Night. So planning for that is about 3 solid months for me of event planning. And that year we had just over 200 people do this, and when they sleep in the box, they're committing to raise at least $1,000 for the ministry. So it was quite an endeavor just to do that event, or just to build the building, or just to deal with the theft. And all of them were happening at once. And there was a period in there that I really thought I might end up needing to get mental health care. I thought I might end up in the hospital from not being able to take it all. And God, just one day at a time and one person coming to help at a time, brought us through that.
How did you get to Colorado Springs? What led you there, and are you working on anything there?
That's a great question. It was 2005, my first visit out to Colorado Springs, and I had a friend in radio in Champaign that had moved out there to work. I went to a worship service at Woodman Valley Chapel, and during that service, God really, I felt like, spoke to me in a couple different ways. I felt like he was calling me to music ministry, to worship ministry that I had done kind of part-time at my church. And I also felt like I was going to be back in Colorado Springs, like he was calling me to be there. And I thought that meant right then, 2005. And shopped my resume around, nothing happened, lots of closed doors. And 2009, I interviewed for another job in Colorado, and it just wasn't the right time. And we know what happened in 2010, 2011. God had See You at Home in mind, and if I had been in Colorado, that wouldn't have happened. So when I visited in February, the end of February, right after One Winter Night, kind of my vacation getaway after the pressures of the event, I went to Colorado Springs, and 3 things happened that showed me it was very clear it was time for me to go to Colorado Springs. The first was a pastor at the church I went to. I told him what I was doing and hoping to move to Colorado, and he just looked at me and he said, "You know, Melany, maybe God wants you to rest, to just take some time off." And I thought, well, I don't want to hear that. I want to get to work. Yeah. I'm a worker, you know. And then the next day, on Monday, I went to a Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. I love the company, love the food. So any chance I get to go, I went there. And the restaurant was just absolutely full of kids, and I couldn't figure out why there were school kids at a Chick-fil-A on a Monday. And then I realized it was President's Day. And a bunch of kind of loud, rambunctious kids is not my happy place. So I just wanted to eat and get out of there. And they fixed my sandwich. My sandwich was wrong. They gave it back to me, and they said, if you can give it to somebody, we just have to throw it away. So there were a couple of guys at a table next to me who were doing a Bible study. They didn't have any food out, just their Bibles on their table. So I offered the sandwich to them, and one of them said he couldn't do gluten, and the other one said, no, thank you. So I gave the sandwich to a family, went back to my seat, waffle fries getting cold, and I'm grumpy. I just want to eat. I was going to the zoo next. There's a beautiful zoo on the mountainside, and I just wanted to get out of there. And I'm eating my food, and just before I get done, I see the two Bible study guys get ready to go, and one of them comes over and stands by my chair, and he puts out my hand to shake my hand, and he introduces himself, and he said, what's your name? And I said, my name's Melany. And he said, you're going through a very big change in your life, big transition, and all of the roadblocks that you've been facing for a long time, all of those roadblocks are being removed. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, I received that. Thank you. And then he left. And I say, maybe his name was Clarence, and maybe I heard a bell ring. But it was definitely a prophetic word, sent from God to tell me that. And then I drove to the zoo. And the zoo has an old ski lift that you can use to go up and kind of oversee Colorado Springs, just a beautiful view from there. So I did that first. It was right inside the gate. And on the way back down, I saw something that definitely brought me to tears. It was on the roof of a building at the zoo, and it was a very big sculpture of a feather. About 12 or 15 foot feather, and God has spoken to me with a feather from time to time since 2005. So it was God's confirmation. So rest and the move to the Springs, I knew that it was going to happen, and then I made plans later that year in September to make the move out there.
Yeah, I'd say you don't find a lot of feather sculptures on people's roofs.
Yeah.
That's a sign.
That is, yes.
Okay, well, I think we've teased people long enough. The book is more than enough. Miraculous provision revealed through See You at Home for our friends without an address. Melany, where can people get this book?
I'd love for you to take just a moment and check out the website. It's morethanenoughthebook.com. You can find out about how to order a paperback version or a Kindle version of the book. You can also find out about consulting opportunities. I'd love to share with other nonprofits about this process of starting a new nonprofit or helping specifically with homeless ministries. So there are a lot of resources. You can find them all at morethanenoughthebook.com.
All right, Melany, thank you so much for being here today. And next time you're in town, stop by.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. Here's a look at your community calendar. Don't miss the hydroplane boat races on Raccoon Lake Saturday, July 28th and Sunday, July 29th. Races will start at 1 p.m. both days. Admission only $2 for adults, and children 12 and under are free. Concessions will be available. Stay on Route 161 east to Country Club Road, then turn north and follow the signs.
Spaghetti dinner benefit held for John and Janet Hayes, who are both dealing with medical issues, on Saturday, August 4th from 4 to 8 at Grace Nazarene Church in Salem. The spaghetti dinner is $7 and includes drink, bread, and dessert. There will also be a live auction. All proceeds will go to help the family cover medical expenses.
J. Jolliffe Memorial Golf Tournament on Saturday, August 11th. Start time at noon. Cost is $70 per person or $280 per team. Entry fee includes lunch, dinner, and drinks on the course. All proceeds from the tournament will provide scholarships to district students who will be attending college.
Centralia Balloon Fest weekend starts August 17th through the 19th at Foundation Park in Centralia. 35 hot air balloons, 4 balloon races, 2 balloon glows, fireworks, car show, craft fair, and entertainment. Listen right here all weekend long for Balloon Fest updates and what's going on.
The Marion Eye Center will be doing a school supply drive for local schools in towns. There is a Marion Eye Center. In July and August, each office will have a donation box people in the community can leave supplies at.
Centralia Fire Protection District is hosting a Glow Bingo at the Centralia Elks on Saturday, September 8th. Doors will open at 6 and bingo will start at 7. $1,000 in cash prizes, 50/50 and cash bar. $20 per person in advance. For more information, call the station at 532-3941.
The 10th annual Bobby Joe Mason Memorial Golf Tournament will be held on Saturday, August 4th at Colonial Golf Course in Sandoval. Registration at 10 and shotgun start at noon. There will be skins, 50/50, door prizes. It is $65 per person or $260 per team. For more information, contact Heather at Colonial Golf Course in Sandoval. And a look at your local area blood drives. Monday, July 30th at the Roland Lewis Building in Mount Vernon from 1 to 6. Wednesday, August 1st at Carlisle High School from 2 to 6. Thursday, August 2nd at Crossroads Community Hospital from 7 to 5.
That's a look at your community calendar on X95 in the Big 1210. If you have an event you'd like to share with us, you can email wiley1210@gmail.com. Or for more information about these events and others, check out our website at x95radio.com. That's it for this week. A special shout out this week to my parents.
Aww.
A couple of our loyal listeners. They were in town this week visiting. It was great seeing them. We had a good time. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't even be.
Oh.
If you want to be cool like my parents and get a shout out on air, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter this week at X95 Radio. If you like what you heard today, come back next Sunday at 11 on X95 in the Big 1210. You can also find past shows on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, she's Rachel Roddy.
And he's Shane Lothar.
And this was Centralia On Air.